This is from Ready Flounder 8007. Says entrepreneurship isn't for everyone, and definitely don't quit your day job yet. Starting your own thing sounds great, but here's the reality. Depression, real. Earning nothing for years, real. Failure, almost guaranteed. Making money and then getting it frozen, also real. Looking at you, PayPal. Curious about that one. Yes, there's light at the end of the tunnel, but sometimes it's just another train. Wow. Ooh. Woo. The freedom thought. That's real too. But don't go quitting your job just yet. You need something that actually works and keep working. Truth is, without my job, I never would have made it as an entrepreneur. My paycheck was my first and only investor. Do what you want, but this is just one perspective from someone who's been there. Thanks. Truth, man. He's absolutely right.
Yeah.
100% right on everything there. It's very, very hard to go from having worked somewhere as your career to starting your own thing and knowing how to be the employer versus or the business owner versus just collecting a paycheck for doing a job. They are completely different mindsets.
So I think this is the difference between growing up in an era of no social media and growing up in an era of social media, right? When I started my first business, MySpace wasn't even there yet.
How old are you? No, I'm kidding.
You should ask when did you start your first business, right? And back then, you would walk around and find people that had started business because you're like, oh, I have this idea. And you were amazed at the number of people you talked to that said, yeah, I had a business and I failed, right? It was very rare that you got to talk to someone back then that had a business that succeeded, so to speak, right? Now with social media out there, they always talk about the successes. They always talk about, oh, what's the most money you made in a year, blah, blah, blah. Very few of them, very few of them are out there telling the horror stories, right? It's the same thing with Instagram. Nobody ever shows you when they're going through the worst of the depression, right? They show you when everybody's smiling at Disney World, right? And I think that has created this illusion that entrepreneurship is easier, faster, than what it actually is. And I don't think it's doing a lot of people any favors.
No, I mean, so my first company, I would probably have to say I never made anywhere close to what I made as an employee somewhere else. So my first company, and I had it for 5 years. Didn't make it, never made anywhere as close as I did to as an employee somewhere else. My second company, I had a couple of partners. We started doing really well. And then the economy tanked, and that's that story. And then I decided to go back into the workforce for a little while. That's when I went to law school. After that, started my practice. My legal practice, I would say for the first 3 years, probably didn't make any money at all. I was living off savings and stuff like that, knowing that was the case because now I had that experience running businesses, kind of knew what I was in for. Then after a couple of years, things really started picking up, networking, things like that. Boom, to the races. Right now, everything's is good and good. You got the software company back again. That's doing phenomenal. But it's the kind of stuff where you're going to fail 2 or 3 times before you hit anything.
I think there are far more failure stories out there than there are success stories.
Course.
The problem is people just don't get to hear them.
Yeah,
they don't get to hear oh yeah, I had a business. I was basically on the verge of bankruptcy and I had to work my way through it, right? And I'll give you a perfect example. I have a buddy of mine that owns a roofing company. And people look at him today and they go, "Oh, you own a, 30-acre farm and blah 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 blah." And like they see where he is now. Well, he had a different company before this and there was an accident that led to someone passing away. And that's the first time I ever heard about the corporate veil because that had been pierced. So not only was his company gone after, they went after him personally, right? And he basically went into bankruptcy and had to work his way back from that after having been worth multi-million. That was all stripped away, right? Those are the stories you don't get to hear. And it was funny because I was scrolling through TikTok yesterday, and there's a guy there that does the School of Hard Knocks, I think he's called. and he goes around and it's like, hey, this is a nice car.
Right.
You know, how, I don't know if you've ever seen those videos.
Yeah, of course.
Okay. So he had one pop up yesterday, and it's a guy in Dubai. His name is Raha Banks.
Okay.
Okay. Randomly, Raha Banks popped into one of my lives a few months ago, and I was talking to Raha Banks.
Wow.
That people are like, oh, this guy's on top of everything. And he was asking me basic branding and marketing and building a culture questions.
That's awesome.
Right. And I'm like, this just goes to show you that even people that have made it big sometimes need to go elsewhere to get some help or understanding. So like me and Raha ended up having probably like a 20-minute conversation. And I was just amazed. Like I had no idea who he was when he jumped on my life.
Yeah.
He was just a guy asking me culture and branding questions. And it's funny because, you know, and then you see them somewhere else and you're like, oh, I guess he is kind of not famous, but I mean, there's people that adore this man and he's really good at what he does, right? He wouldn't have made it. But as the guy was talking to him, he's like, you know, did you come from money? And he's like, no, he's like, I never had any money ever. And he's like, but the core concept that I needed to understand was I needed to save before I could start making, because if I didn't have money to make money, I was going to be stuck in debt or I was going to be stuck in the status quo. He's like, so I started saving money before I started investing. And when I learned how money works, I invested more and started trading more. Basically, I think he's like a crypto trader now. That's what he does. Yeah, but they're doing like 40 million a year.
I love it. That's
just
great.
Crypto trading, and they're crypto trading on like nominal margins, right? Like, but once
little
again,
here, little there,
correct.
but huge quantities.
Correct. Yeah. But he didn't start there, right? He started with a few $100s or a few $1,000s, and then he built it over time. It's just people get impatient. They think success comes faster than it actually does.
Right.
And are there stories of someone that opened their business?
Oh yeah.
And 2 years later, they were worth $1 billion.
You know, there's also stories of people winning the lottery.
Yeah, correct. Right. And it's kind of the equivalent. So yeah, it's one of these. This guy's absolutely right. When you start your entrepreneur journey, just realize that there is a 90% chance that it's going to fail within 5 years.
Yeah.
Right. Like that's what it is. So
you said it earlier, people don't talk enough about the failures, right? I'll tell you, I know exactly why my first business failed and I learned from it. And you know, I'm making sure I don't repeat those lessons here, although I'm having issues right now, but that's a different story. My first business was a web development company. It wasn't marketing, it was just web development. Yep. All I did was web development. And at first it was just me, brought on a couple of people, but there were two problems that I had. Number one, to this day, I can't sell. I'm just not a sales guy.
I was going to say,
right? I like if someone's expecting me to go to their office and I can do that all day long. It's the cold calling, I don't know you, but I'm going to sell you my product anyway. That's just not me. I've never been able to do that. If someone refers me to someone and someone wants to talk to me, yeah, we'll have a deal tomorrow. Great. But it's that kind of selling, right? That was issue number one. And issue number two was I was also so heavy into the code that I couldn't focus on actually growing the business, right? So what I should have done is I should have hired a salesperson, right? And I should have brought on probably another developer to handle my portion of the code so I could go and do all those wonderful things we were talking about earlier, networking and things like that to grow the business. Didn't do any of that. Learned from those mistakes, and my law practice is only doing so well today because of those mistakes. First thing I did as soon as I opened my practice was I joined a networking group. Very first thing I did. And it worked. Well, actually, no, the first one didn't work, but the second one I joined worked wonderfully. And it's one of the only reasons why I'm where I am today, right? So make contacts, friends like you, et cetera, et cetera. That kind of stuff changes everything when it comes to running a business. So I want to go through these points.
And people don't realize that this applies on a large scale as well as like, I don't care whether you're a plumber or if you're running JP Morgan, there's a reason these people are out talking to other people. There's a reason they have summits. There's a reason they have conferences. There's a like, it doesn't matter. It's all about making these connections.
It is.
Right?
So I'm going to go through these points. There's only a couple of them he has, but he says, okay, depression, real. Yeah. If you're, so it's varying stages, but if you're a single person, you're not going to be as depressed, right? Let's say you're a single person, you live with your parents, and you're starting your business. You're not going to be nearly as depressed, right? Because you have your backing, you have a place to live, you're good to go. You just don't have as much money. Okay, fine. If you're a family person, like you have kids and whatever, a spouse, all that stuff, house, mortgage, all those things, and the company doesn't succeed and you're losing money, you're going to be really depressed. It's going to hit home hard.
Oh yeah.
And there's divorces. There's all kinds of these things happen because of that.
It is very strenuous, and people yes.
Earning nothing for years, very, very real. You may go 2 or 3 years before you're able to pay yourself a dime out of that business.
Yep.
Very, very possible, depending. Because realistically, what you should be doing is any profit that company makes, you should be reinvesting into the company.
Yep.
More people, more equipment, more marketing, more networking, et cetera, is what you should be doing for the first few years.
I don't always, but one of the things that I've noticed is that the people that treat their business like a job, thinking it's something they can just do from 9 to 5 and they wipe their hands clean of it, take every weekend off, are often the people that end up failing the fastest. Right. And I remember I was listening to someone, or was it a book? Either way, they were saying, my brother-in-law is hugely successful and I'm struggling with my business. And so I called my brother-in-law the one day and said, hey, would you be willing to help me out to figure out what I'm doing? And he's like, I always remember my brother-in-law said, sure, meet me at my office at 6 a.m. on Sunday morning. And his answer was, well, I don't really work on the weekends. And he goes, right there. That's
your problem.
That is the difference, right? This is why I'm successful and you're not. It's because you see it as a job. I see it as part of my life, right? And I don't think, especially during the early years, I mean, for crying out loud, isn't there a story of Elon Musk sleeping on the damn factory floor of Tesla?
Yeah.
Right? Like,
absolutely.
Do you think he treated Tesla like a job at that point? Right. But people see, multi-billionaire Elon Musk. And I'm like, what about flat ass broke Tesla, like months away from going bankrupt? And in order to fix the problem, he basically lived in the factory.
No, he lived in the factory. It was more than one night.
Right. Like nobody talks about those things. No. I mean, and that's a company that was already making money. Well, they weren't making money at the time. They were selling products. They were selling products, but they were losing money, right? And I'm like, so you think as a startup business, your first year, this is going to be a 9 to 5, that you're going to have weekends off, that you're going to be able to go out drinking with your buddies on a
the
Friday.
Only 9 to 5 is 9 a.m. to 5 a.m. That's about it,
right?
That's your 9 to 5.
And it's these things that people don't talk about anymore, right? They don't talk about having to go for 2 weeks, whether you have to decide whether you're going to eat or put gas in your car to be able to go to a meeting.
Right.
They don't talk about missing every family function because there is something going on that you have to take care of and there's nobody else that can take care of it. There's no talk of missing weddings or, not being able to do certain things because guess what? Your business needs your attention. Like the first 2 years, you don't own the business owns you. Right? You do whatever is needed to make sure that takes off.
And you do not let anything get in your way. You have to, again, I said, I think I told you about The Simpsons, right? I told you about the Mr. Burns in The Simpsons.
Yeah.
You go over this, right? It's a great line. Mr. Burns, he's introducing himself and he's talking about business. He goes, family, friends, and religion. These are the 3 demons you must slay if you want to succeed in business.
Yeah. And, it's, I don't know. Yeah. This is the stuff that I wish people would talk about more. And it's funny because whenever I get someone that's looking to start a business into my office, the first thing I do is try to talk them out of it. right?
Yeah.
Because if I can even sow a seed of doubt in
Yeah.
your head in a
You're not-
30-minute
it's not
meeting,
going to work.
you are not ready.
Yeah.
Right? You are not ready at that point in time.
Let's see. Failure almost guaranteed. Yeah,
Mhm.
especially if it's your first business.
Mhm.
It's not so much guaranteed that you're going to fail. It's more like it's guaranteed you're going to give up because
Mhm.
you're not going to make it. Look, businesses only fail because the owners of the business stop putting money into it, stop putting time into it. The business can go on in perpetuity, technically, right?
Theoretically, yes.
No one technically shuts it down unless you did something illegal. The government's like coming in saying, "Okay, you can't be a business anymore."
Well, you can also do dumb stuff, and there can be outside
Oh
factors.
yeah, right,
right. Like,
right. I'm just saying, but normally it's
correct.
because, hey, it's just
Dur-
not working. I'm not making any money. I'm done with this business.
During the startup stages, it is all you, right? Like there's no outside factor. There's
Right.
no, as you get bigger, have businesses been canceled and suffered from things like that? It happens. Very, very rare,
Yeah.
right? Which is an outside force you can't control. But yeah, for the most part, most people give up before they see success.
Yeah.
Like,
right.
If you would have gone a little bit longer, you probably could have turned it around, assuming you're doing the right things, right? Like if you're doing the wrong stuff, like I just had a meeting this morning and I was telling the guy, like, there's 3 of you here working in the administrative side of the business. And I know you have no sales meeting lined up this week, right? It's now Wednesday.
Right.
Why are the 3 of you sitting here? And they go, what do you mean? I'm like, why aren't you on the phone calling restoration companies that would be a great partner for you? Why aren't you going through your old customer logs of someone that had problems with a sink 2 years ago, following up and seeing how the sink is doing and if there's something else?
Yeah.
The average lifespan of a water heater is 4 years, right? Have you gone through the water heaters you installed and called people that are on year 3, 4, and 5 of their water heater to see if everything is okay, to ask them to go see if there's a leak, right? These are all things you could be doing that would be far more productive than sitting here
and doing nothing.
right?
Right.
But that's my whole point with is, money hides a lot of things. And when things are going well and a lot of revenue is coming in, it can hide a lot of bad things going on. And when companies go from having had lots of revenue to things around them stopping that revenue because the service is no longer needed,
Right.
that's when you discover how many bad habits there are, so to speak, inside of a business. That's when you discover how many missed opportunities you may have had within the business that you weren't taking advantage of. So in a sense, it's a good thing. There's always going to be business for them to do, but the fact that their revenue was slashed by 50% year over year made them take a good hard look at saying, okay, what are we not doing that we should be doing,
Yeah.
right? And one of the answers was, well, don't sit here and stare at each other, right? It sounds dumb, but like I went through it. I went through it in my first business where like I would sit in my office and look at numbers for 2 hours, right? And then I'd come back and do the same thing the next day. And I'm like, the numbers hadn't freaking changed.
Yeah.
It's been 24 hours. Nothing has changed because I didn't do anything to change them,
Yeah.
right? I just analyzed them and went, oh, I guess we're losing money again.
Yeah.
Let me look at it some more. Next day, guess what? We were still losing money because I hadn't done anything, right?
So the Ready Flounder 8007, you got it. You're absolutely right. Your perspective, yes, it's one perspective, but it's very, very true. It's very true to what happens a lot of times. So anyone looking to start a business, just be prepared for that kind of stuff. It's good that you hear these things, right? It's good that you hear failure stories because hopefully it teaches you what to look out for, because a lot of times you'll read books and they're all about success. Here's how everyone's happy, everyone's great. That is not true to reality, man. It's not how it works. You got to build it yourself, and sometimes, it does lead to depression. It does lead to having issues, not making money, et cetera, et cetera. So, thank you for that, Ready Flounder. That's the kind of advice you got to be telling people more and more. Is it's not just about the greatness. There's also sometimes a lot
and
of
under no circumstances are we telling people not to do it.
No.
We're just saying be prepared for what the reality of it is, not the Instagram version of it.
I like that, the Instagram version. Yes, it's true.
Remember that if you have questions or comments, please drop them below and we will prioritize actually answering the questions on these videos.